The evolution of your marketing will be the catalyst for the evolution of your business, and the evolution of your business will provide you with the freedom to focus on the evolution of your life. This is Evolved Marketing with Andre and Brian.
Welcome back to another episode of Evolved Marketing Podcast. So the way me and Brian like to start the show is by sharing a little story that will lead up to our guest for the day. But I thought we should do something different this time and get straight to it. What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. I'm excited for today's guest. Let's jump right into it here, Andre.
All right. Our guest today has been a big part of my success when I started my business 2 years ago. He went from a high school dropout to running multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. He has one of the fastest growing privately owned companies in the United States. He has been featured in Forbes magazine and has added an Inc. 5000 award to his repertoire. So without further ado, Dave Sharpe, everyone. Welcome, brother.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, good to have you here,
about
Dave.
Me with all those accolades?
Pretty amazing stuff, isn't it? Huh? Sometimes you gotta wake up and pinch yourself.
I'm just sitting here. I'm just realizing. I mean, I got my blower back here behind me on the. I was just actually outside blowing the leaves out of my yard, and so to be reminded that all this is possible, and both of you fellas are really, really important to me and important to my story here, at least with Legendary Marketers. So I'm really excited to be here. So where can we go? How can I serve your audience, who some may know me and some don't? I'm here to give what I can, leave it all on the field.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure to have you here, first of all. So let's start from the beginning, right? Like, when did you first start your entrepreneur life?
I don't know, really. I think it started when I was mowing lawns but I don't know if I really had the entrepreneur spirit or I just wanted money. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I've been an entrepreneur since, I was a young kid. I've had 50 businesses before I was 18. I mean, the truth is I was just a kid, so I don't know that I was an entrepreneur any earlier or in any different way or any better way than anybody else. I don't think, I could tell a tall tale, but the truth is that we need money to survive. I needed money to buy toys. I just kind of realized at an early age that if I wanted to have anything, that it required this stupid paper. It required this dumb money with these dead presidents on it. And I never really had this like too much of an attachment to money. I think that was a little bit because of my mom. She shopped a lot. She was a shoe salesman. So we used to go buy stuff. Not that we couldn't afford to keep it all. She'd always return most of it. But we shopped a lot. Now, I'm serious. She's famous for that. But we shopped a lot and we spent money. And she kind of took me out. And so I had a little bit of a loose relationship. I didn't grow up in a household to where money was we weren't rich by any means, but it wasn't like we were cutting coupons, right? So as I grew, into my teenage years, I got into drugs and alcohol, and so I don't know if I was an entrepreneur. I just sold drugs to support my addiction. I really don't know. You know what I mean? But that happened. And so that was what my 16, 17, 18-year-old life looked like, 19, 20. Eventually I got high on my own supply too much and developed an addiction and ended up in treatment at in and out of treatment from 18 to 24. Finally got clean at 24. And this was when I went into a telemarketing company. And this was that a lot of the treatment guys went to this telemarketing company to get a job because they'd hire us, right? And so this was the first time that I realized that I kind of enjoyed selling, that I kind of enjoyed. And I don't know if I'm a natural born this or that. I just know that I wanted to get out of the treatment center and for 8 hours a day. And so did I love selling or did I don't know, but I developed communication skills, kind of fell in love a little bit with the idea of kind of the scripting process and that kind of marketing and sales is a numbers game. and realized also that I had some skills. I don't know if you guys remember the first time that you actually like made some money in a job of your own and you were like, damn, I actually got some skills.
It feels pretty good.
Yeah. I had really only ever been good at sports up until that point. And so it's hard to really call yourself a good drug addict or anything, or like being really good at being homeless, or being a kind of a juvenile delinquent. But if there was a trophy for that, I definitely get it. But this was the beginning of, and then I got into network marketing, got out of treatment, got into network marketing, borrowed some money from my mom, made some mistakes, failed miserably in those businesses. And so those were kind of some of the early things that I did before I ultimately got clean in 2008. I got out of treatment in 2004, bumped along the road between relapse and a couple of bullshit jobs that I failed miserably at, a couple of failed network marketing things, finally got clean in 2008. And that's when I got into one more network marketing company, failed, and said, look, I got to figure out how to generate leads. I got to figure out how to I got to figure out how to stop being the hunter, and figure out how to be more of the hunted. And that's when I came online and started getting training for network marketers of how to generate leads online. And that's when I learned about affiliate marketing. And then I turned around and started selling this training to other network marketers who were also struggling with chasing their friends and family. And that's how I began marketing online to offline people for the very first time. I kind of understood that niche, so I could speak to those people and say, hey, are you struggling chasing friends and family? Are you feeling like an idiot like I was? Try these strategies. And that's when I started talking about landing pages and autoresponders, because I was learning about that. So that was around 2009-ish. And the rest is history.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting to listen to you talk, because when I was at the mastermind in Orlando back in December of 2021, that's the first time I met Andre in person. That's the first time I met you in person. Obviously, with the legendary marketer program that Andre and I are both affiliates for, you're the CEO of. And that's when I met Matt for the first time in person, who happens to be the CMO of Legendary Marketer as well. And it was really interesting when we get there, at the mansion, after we give our speeches and everybody leaves, we sit there and we kind of get into some real talk. And it really was funny to me, because we all had the same backstories, where we were starting and we were learning about this new opportunity, and we started recording sales letters. And I was talking to Matt, and he was, he would set up pillows in his bedroom to make the sound sound better. And I would do the same thing. And, you have those stories of being there in your living room, getting ready to run a webinar and stuff like that. And sometimes people showed up and sometimes people didn't show up. But through the years, obviously you do things, you fail, you get better at it, you figure out what works, what doesn't, and you start to evolve your marketing process. But really, I think what it comes down to, that's kind of been the constant in your life, and maybe you can agree with this or not, is the fact that you have gotten really good at selling with words. Is that a fair statement? And if so, how do you view that process of using words to make sales?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two real ways to really use words in this day and age. I guess there's three ways. You write, so that's the written form, or you're verbally talking, either in recorded video or live video. And that's the the three ways really that you can sell nowadays. And there's other subcategories of those, but those are primarily, I think, the three ways. And so I was bad at all three. You know what I mean? I sucked at all three of them. There wasn't one that I was better at than the other. I sucked at all three of them. Now I could talk. All of us can talk. You get us around our most comfortable friends or family, and we turn into a different person. We run off at the mouth. We never stop. And that's why so many times we say, well, if you really knew him, or, we say it about kids too. Well, you should see him at home. Oh, he's such a nice little boy. Well, you should see him at home, where he's more comfortable. He talks a lot. The same with our son. He's 2. He can get a little shy, but he's not shy, right? He knows how to talk. So I just had to begin writing. The first thing that I did when I was starting out was I began to email my list every day, whether I had one lead or whether I had 100 leads. And my wife often would help me edit those emails. I would send them to her. She would tell me, how horrible they were grammatically, or if something didn't make sense, or, she would give me feedback. She was my first sounding board. Then I began to kind of write copy for bonus pages. As an affiliate, I would offer bonuses, and I would run little campaigns myself. Even if a product was an evergreen product and it was being sold 365 days a year, I might have a specific time during a week launch where I'd run a promotional cycle and offer a bonus if they bought within that time frame. So I would set up a separate page. Back then, it wasn't ClickFunnels or Lead Pages or System. It was kind of a WordPress blog, and you uploaded like one of their plugins. It was the one that I used back then was Optimize Press. Optimize Press.
That brings me back, man.
Optimize Press. It was a WordPress plugin, and so I would build these pages and landing pages, and I would write the copy, of course, for those, or bonus pages for a particular, or if affiliate launch was happening, I would write the copy for the bonus pages. I hadn't yet begun selling my own kind of coaching or courses where I was creating copy to sell my own stuff yet, but I began the process of writing. Video was something that was a little bit more awkward for me. Back then, and I speak like it's like, I'm like 100 years old, but it's just technology evolves. Again, there's that key word again. We're on the Evolved Marketing podcast. Marketing has evolved so much and so fast, so quickly, that it can feel like 100 years and 10 years. So video, there wasn't the short form video that we have now. So now I feel like we can get more practice creating more content. It doesn't matter like as much. Back then, we only had kind of longer form video. You had to kind of make a full point, or else it was like, why are you posting a video that's only 15 seconds? You know what I mean? So it was more YouTube, longer form content. And I was awkward as shit. I started to learn how to use Keynote or PowerPoint and ScreenFlow, which I still use to this day. Those two particular apps have made me more money than anything else, because I started to, instead of always just speaking direct to camera, I learned how to use props early on when I started talking, and those props were mainly slides. And so I would record like a 5-day boot camp or something that I offered in my follow-up email series, which set me apart from other affiliates. They would go to a blank page, and instead of just me sending them back to the same sales video that everybody else is sending and just doing that over and over and using copy and paste, I would actually try to teach something in 2 or 3 slides and record it with ScreenFlow, which has been the app that's been easiest for me to do kind of screen capture recording. And so I learned how to kind of present using slides as well. And I would that translated over into live presentations. So I did a lot of webinars back then, and that was the story that you were referencing, Brian, was the webinars that I would present even when nobody showed up, because I had too much pride to admit to my wife that nobody was listening, basically. You know what I mean?
So you just went through and ran it anyways, right?
Well, I'd do a shortened version, but yeah, I'd be like, hey, we got a full house in here tonight, and of course on a webinar, you're only talking to them. So, it's not like really, unless you're taking questions, which I didn't do. I just did a presentation, but I learned how to speak, I'd say, in those. And then of course there's live in-person talking, like kind of at the mastermind, which is kind of like even another level of kind of, I think, managing anxiety, which is really kind of what it boils down to. Like, how well can you manage your anxiety? Because like, if you don't have any coping mechanisms to manage your anxiety, you can even be on stage talking and just be out of your mind, not even focused on what you're talking about. Just like words are coming out because you're just so full of anxiety. So I think that it was a good progression for me to write first, to do video, to then begin to implement kind of slides in like via, like, you know, just little props in my videos, and then go on to webinars or live presentations to where I was presenting live without any edits. And then that final step was actually, you know, having experiences talking in front of people.
Yeah, what a great evolution. I mean, you went from being not scared, but like being uncomfortable, being on camera, right, recording your own stuff, to making webinars, to going on events and speaking in big stages in front of thousands of people. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I
And
mean,
it's and you never, and you don't know who's, the first time that I did a live event, we sold it. It was a company that I owned previously. I had a partner in this company, and I ended up leaving that company. I sold my part of the company to my partner when I exited, and he ran it for another 3 years, until I guess he ran it into the ground. But anyways, my experience from 2011 to 2014 at that company was a positive one, and we had a lot of massive first for me in major milestones. The first being the first live event that we ever hosted, which was in Atlanta, Georgia in 2012. We launched that company in 2011, had our first event in 2012, and we walked into a hotel auditorium ballroom. There was 1,200 people in the room. I mean, my wife flew up on the Saturday because she was still had her job, and so she couldn't cut. And she flew up on Saturday, and she walked into the room like, who are these people? You know what I mean?
Holy.
What is happening right now? And, you know, it was just as shocking to me, but I tried to, you know, at least act like I you step into the role, you know, you surprise yourself, and then you just got to go with it and act as if you planned it all to be that way. But that was kind of, you know, my first experience of going into it to a live, and that was a massive event. That's not normal to be having an event where 1,200 people will come so fast, but that's been the evolution of at least me kind of learning at least how to talk in those different settings, you know, and kind of what that evolution looked like.
Right, because it's a different game when you're creating a PowerPoint presentation versus you have 1,200 people staring you in the face. And, you know, it's always amazing when you think about walking into a room with 1,200 people. And, you know, I can imagine if it's your first time, you know, the feeling of emotion that comes over you just from the energy that's in the room. I felt it when I spoke at the mastermind, because that was really my first time ever really speaking in front of a group. And I think that was 40 or 50.
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at is when you see those people in person, you know, it's very tangible. It's like, holy shit, there's 1,200 people who are on edge and you know, waiting to see what I have to say. Whereas you don't get that in video, right? But now, especially with the evolution of social media and the introduction of short form content and all the interest-based algorithms and everything, you know, people can go relatively new in their career and all of a sudden get in front of a bunch of people. And, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit disheartening when you go out there and you create your first couple of videos and you get, you know, 1,000 views or 2,000 views, and then you create a few more and you get 500 or 400 or 300. But, you know, you really got to remind yourself, you know, what this is 300 people who are waiting to hear what I have to say. So that's pretty powerful stuff, and just an amazing opportunity. Now, I know this short form content explosion, you know, it started with TikTok, let's say 2020, and it extended through the other platforms as you know, maybe attention spans start to wane, or social media decides that, hey, this is what people really want. You know, this has been a huge, I don't want to say blessing, because it's one of those things where preparation meets opportunity, but it has helped your business, Legendary Marketer, see some massive success. And first of all, congratulations on you know, what you've been building over there. You know, what has that ride been like over the last 2 years?
I mean, pretty normal. I mean, honestly, my life has not changed, Brian. I mean, so I'd like to say that it's been like, you know, It's been life-changing. It's been life-changing to see how many people, and I'll explain what I mean by my life hasn't changed here in a moment, but it's been exciting to see so many people be able to break into this space. I mean, we just finished up another mastermind and we have amazing clients, man. These people are not dummies. I mean, these are not the bottom of the barrel of society, man. People are breaking into the space who are doctors, lawyers, people of all different walks of life. And there's a homeless guy here, there, like I was when I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it ain't just a bunch of idiots. It's people who have real serious careers that they've been in for decades, and they're looking to try to transition into something that is going to be more flexible for them, maybe allow them to earn more money because inflation, etc. So I am fulfilled. We do our own podcast or show at Legendary. It's called Wake Up Legendary. Both of you have been on it multiple times, and I think it's time for that you come back again. But every day I get to talk to somebody who went through our education and who's having some sort of success. Obviously, the most notable success is the financial success, but these people are really having, they're really having, I think, major reductions in stress. I think major increase in kind of happiness and rejuvenation for life and kind of passion that they can be new at something again. I don't know. I talk to every day to people from 18 to 80 who are they're excited, they're positive. I haven't gotten on a single show and somebody's just like, yeah, when's this going to be over, or acting like, I mean, they're all just like so excited about what they're doing. And so to be a small part of that is really cool. But it's also cool to see what the community has grown into. I understand my role, or I'm understanding it more and more. And it's more to facilitate, and it's more to create kind of an environment where people can connect with each other on the journey. And I just want to make sure that I don't dominate. I don't want to become the guru. I don't need to be all over on stages. I love being on this podcast talking to you guys because we got so much in common, but I get a lot of requests that I don't want to go on there. But and that's what I mean by my life hasn't changed. I thankfully have already made some mistakes in my marketing entrepreneurial career, like being away from home and not being very empathetic to what my wife was going through at home, raising my oldest son, and a variety of other things that almost led to my divorce by my own actions, right? And so having those experiences basically from 2011 to 2017, and maybe even the first year or two of Legendary. But Legendary's been in business for about 7 years, I think, or maybe we're in our 6th year, something like that, since 2017. And I would say the last 5 years, I've really grown up a lot in this business, in this industry as a man. And so the more successful that I get, the more simple I think I try to keep things. I try to keep things to where daddy's not the center point of the house, my success, my notoriety, my fame, etc. To where my work doesn't dominate my personal life, to where I like being rich, but I don't particularly like being famous. I don't want to go. I like my privacy, or I am liking it more and more as I get older. So for me, it's been an exercise of self-esteem building. It's been an exercise of really getting through my own imposter syndrome, right? Am I actually worthy of this? Do I have value? Does my message matter? Does what I'm doing mean something? Or is it just some schemy thing that's just, right? Because for years, what I was doing was called shit, junk, scam, whatever. I'm on the internet. I'm, creating courses, educating, running ads, and I've always been the outcast. And I've sort of been like that since I was a teenager. But to now have everything that's happened over the past couple of years in our industry and what we do become more validated, become more to get recognized in ink, to for me to look out the right validation and try to really attach to that, like the ink stuff. And because, you know, you're right. This is a pretty serious thing that we've created and built now. It's really given a lot of people a brand new outlook on life. And it's not because we're selling Kool-Aid. It's not because we're saying, come be part of our MLM or whatever. It's because we're saying, hey, we've got some skills we've had for a long ass time. We've been developing them, and we have a sort of knack to explain what we do to you if you want to learn. And it's nice for that to be validated, honestly, as something that's legitimate and not like something that's just some bullshit thing that we do on the internet. You know what I mean?
Right. You're doing your part to advance the industry really as a whole.
Trying to. That's kind of where I feel like I'm at now, is like really understanding my priorities, which is, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs say, well, I do it for my family, but then, you know, we're trying to get on every stage. Our calendar's so booked out. You know, we're on conference calls all throughout the house. There's no space for our kids and what they want and all that. And I was like that at one time. I was that entrepreneur, but, you know, who had no boundaries. Now my wife and I, we work together. She's the director of events in Legendary. I'm the CEO. We work in a house, but it's a different house than we live in. So we come over here and we work, and then we go home at the end of the day, usually around the same time. Every day we've got the same schedule every week. We plan our vacation, so we schedule our relaxation and all that. We schedule our date nights. They happen each week. But it's a pretty disciplined, boring life, because that is actually, with all the, you know, once you start making money, absolutely money can buy happiness, but we can get lost in that too. And so for me, I find a lot of pleasures in the simple kind of routines and the things that I'm explaining that are a big part of my life, or that I try to keep, you know, as at the top of the priority list. So it's been a wonderful ride. It's been very validating. It's been very fulfilling to see so many people be able to start a new career or really develop skills that they can use to support themselves. But I'm trying to stay focused and actually make sure that the fruits of all this stuff that we're doing are actually getting those who I love most are also benefiting at the maximum, right? And I know that my kids benefit most with some structure. They benefit most with some consistency. They benefit most when I'm focused on them, not on me. My son doesn't like me he's 2 years old. He knows when I got that phone in my hand, because
Yeah,
I'm
they do.
98, 99% of the time when I'm with him, I don't. So when I'm not with him, he knows. And it's not like I can't say, Sam, go play by yourself for a couple of minutes. Daddy's got to do something. I can say that. I just don't want to say that all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's amazing how you know, you have gone through struggles in your past, you know, and now you started a family, right? And then struggles are still gonna be there, but you're able to manage those struggles. Like you never forget where you came from for the first place, right? Like your values, you always want to keep those. You never want to forget those values, because I've seen that before, where people get famous or people start getting rich, and then they completely forget where they came from, right?
Absolutely.
And that's not the case with you. So I really praise you for that. And you mentioned a lot your wife, family, and I think that's super important, especially when you're trying to grow your business, right?
Yeah.
So what type of balance do you keep with your business and with your family, right? I know there's sometimes where you might be stressed with work, right? Like, is there like a balance? Is there a way you balance those things out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I'll give it to you in practical terms. I mean, I just gave you the kind of the how I think about things, but how that shows up in regular life is that, we work a pretty consistent schedule each week. Like I used to think that I was the free-spirited entrepreneur who needed to just, have no schedule. But it was like that doesn't work in real life when you've got a wife and two small children under 6. Like my wife needs to be able to count on me. And also as you get more people who you're working with or around, you want them to be able to count on you too. We've got 90 something people inside of Legendary, who work on our internal team. And so, they need to be able to count on me in some capacity. I'm not involved in everything that they do, but, Wake Up Legendary counts on me. So, that was a big, like those kind of things, committing to doing Wake Up Legendary every day was like, that really challenged what I'm talking about, my commitment to structure, those kind of things really. But they've been the best thing that I've done because they bring me to those kind of important things that I have to do every day. When they're scheduled, I know the most important things are going to get done. So for example, our nanny is scheduled on a certain schedule each week. Now my wife takes care of all of this because she's much more organized than I am, but so we at least know that our children are taken care of. They also have they go to school, so we know that our children are taken care of. So that's the number one priority that we schedule. And where do they need to be, or what does our daughter need to do, etc. And then the second thing is we schedule our work time. So our work time is scheduled. It usually is from 9 to 5 ish, which is ironic, right? Because here I am, the entrepreneur who's but it's different when you're working on your own terms, when you set those hours, right? Exactly. Because I might not be working from 9 to 5, but that's the time that I have, that my nanny's available, right? But I usually am. I'm doing Wake Up Legendary 10 a.m. 4 days a week. Now I have a fill-in, Matt or Joanne, on Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday and Friday, both my wife do something that night, so our nanny stays late. Saturday, Sunday, we both are home all day, and so there's no work for me during the weekends at this point in my career. There was for a long time. At this point, there's not. So I have balance because it's scheduled, not because I'm some super duper human who's this, productivity expert. And honestly, I've got more self-will than anybody that I know. And I've got more discipline than anybody that I know. And I still cannot rely on my own will to make sure that those really important things like that work-family balance gets executed. I can't. Why? Because I am powerless. Now, I know this language from like my recovery days. I'm powerless over my addiction. I'm powerless over my work, man, sometimes. Where I've told my wife so many times in the past, I'll be there in 5 minutes, 30 minutes later. And it's not because I want to be disrespectful to her. I'm powerless over how I feel when I'm in that mode of creation and stuff. So we've set those firm boundaries. We've gone through, my wife and I have gone through, I can't tell you how many months in couples counseling, me being 10 minutes late consistently was a problem, right? But we've worked through all that stuff. And this is just, and it's a problem because she's controlling. It's a problem because at this point in my life, I've got 2 small children at home, and she wants to have a partner. That's why she's married. And I want to have a partner too. Right. So the work-life balance, that's how it's kind of showed up in practical terms. And it also, remember, work-life balance also includes your own self-care. So when are you taking care of you? When is Dave taking care of Dave? So I've got some scheduled things that I do. I do some therapy. I work out. Now that's not scheduled right now, but I have found a groove that I'm working out on my own, and I'm holding myself pretty accountable. But other things, going out on the boat, going fishing, doing that. See, I don't have those things scheduled right now, which is why they don't get done as much. The self-care shit, going out on the boat, taking myself out on the boat, taking and going and do something nice for myself. What gets scheduled gets done is what I've learned about myself. And the other thing is social things. So I haven't been socializing a lot. That's been sort of a piece of my work-life balance that's been missing. And why? No, it's not scheduled. So there's a takeaway, there's some practical answers to your questions, but also a few takeaways, which is, again, for me anyways, I'm disciplined. I've got self-will. I've got all those things, entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. But, and I'm aware of them. I'm aware I need to have those elements in my life. But unfortunately, what gets absolutely executed in my life are the things that get scheduled. And if I want those other things to increase, I probably need to schedule them.
Probably need to schedule them. Yeah. I always got kind of nervous about that whole scheduling thing when I was first getting started, because like you said, there's this whole idea of freedom. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And when you start actually making money, then all of a sudden you can kind of do whatever you want, whenever you want. But looking back, scheduling was a big part of my early success when I was still working the 9 to 5 or the 3 to 2 a.m. as it was in the restaurant industry, because I scheduled my quote unquote side hustle time from noon to 1 while my newborn daughter was napping and my wife was napping as well. It got done. So for 6 days a week, I showed up and put an hour a day in, and I did that until I finally got over the hump and was able to walk away. When we were talking about this podcast, I'm like, oh shit, there's something that's going to be on my schedule. But the truth is as you alluded to, is when you schedule something, it's actually freeing, because now that all that other time is actually free. If you're just in flow state, just trying to work whenever, then what happens? Oh, you're working all the time. So I think there's a lot of power in it. And the more you get over your fear of scheduling, the more you'll realize it's freeing. I do want to shift gears really quickly, because you mentioned you have 90 employees at Legendary Marketer, which is incredible. Having seen them in person, I know how well you treat them, how well, you empower them to live the laptop lifestyle if they want, if they choose to. You give them a lot of freedom within structure. But I do want to take a second, because I have you on here, and talk a little about structure that you provide, most notably to your business plan advisors. Because your business plan advisors are there to really facilitate the journey of the new folks or new clients or new customers who are coming through the program, to help guide them and help really probably even push them forward, because they need that little push. Part of what they do is facilitate the purchase of your business blueprints, which is the quote unquote higher ticket back end product, which, if anybody's promoted Legendary Marketer, that the higher ticket back end stuff is going to account for anywhere probably from 60 to 80% of your total commissions. And what I found my time promoting Legendary Marketer is, your company does an amazing job at facilitating the conversion. If we're really talking about the business side of things. So I was wondering if you could dive in. I know you do a lot of training with your business plan advisors, or at least you did. I don't know if you still do. What sort of processes do you give them, or what sort of tools do you get them, or frameworks do you give them to help them actually facilitate the conversion of a product that costs anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500?
Well, this is a question that'll be a challenge to answer, and I'm up for the challenge. Because there's not a lot to it, but I guess there's some nuances. At the end of the day, sales, at least up until this point on the internet, and in many other instances, I can remember being I worked very briefly for a Xerox franchise. And it was basically a guy who was selling Xerox machines. That's what the franchise was. You sell Xerox machines. And so we would go out on the calls, and it would be a one-on-one presentation. You know what I mean? And we're sitting there going through things and going through the list and the specs and everything. And that at the end of that conversation, he's going to turn to you and say, okay, which one do you want to go with? And there's going to be there's going to be some pressure there that you're going to feel, or that the salesperson is going to put on you, right? And so I think traditionally we have gone further. We have kind of, as a society, moved further and further away from that sales confrontation, and tried to avoid it, whether we're shopping at retail or whatever. So what I've always tried to do, and I think what the power of the internet is that you can really have the content do the selling for you. You don't have to. And it's better that way, because a person is not sitting there trying to explain something that one day they're going to explain differently than they do the next day, just simply because they got a different number of hours of sleep, right? So every customer is going to get a different experience. They're going to hear a slightly different version of the product. They're going to hear a slightly different version of what the salesperson or the consultant or the advisor thinks about the product, right? So depending on who you talk to at the company, a lot of times is going to determine the experience that you get and what you learn about the product and all of the perspectives and angles that you get about the product is going to be based on the individual, the human being that is explaining the product. And to me, that's like, the older I get, the less I want all the bullshit, all the opinions, I want to be able to look at something, learn about something, and then make a decision after I'm educated. So that leads me to the second point, which is, the first point is that people kind of want to learn and educate themselves kind of on their own, not having a salesperson explain it to them with all their biases. The second thing is that an educated person will always buy. They'll always buy like so much more than a non-educated person will never buy, because they're not educated about what the product will do. They're not educated, really may not even know that they have a problem, right? And so when you educate somebody about something, you can take somebody from being interested in a $500 watch to being interested in a $50,000 watch, because you told them about the story of the company. You told them about the secondary market and the resale value and the way that these particular timepieces not only hold their value, but oftentimes increase over time. Once I become more educated, I realized, well, damn, I have $100,000 sitting around, the stock market's tank, and I'm looking for a good place to store a little value right now. Right now, I can make a different decision. And so educating the client is so important, which, side note, something I talked about a lot about at the mastermind this week, and you can never underestimate the power of the perfect analogy. And that was a great example of one. But an educated person will buy. And the third thing is that most people don't really want to be, they just want to know that it's real. They want to know that you're real. And I can promise you, all those of you who are falling in love with artificial intelligence, there's been this huge talk about AI over the last couple of days. I don't know what's gotten into people.
It has exploded like crazy.
Artificial intelligence. But I can tell you folks that artificial intelligence doesn't scare me, because the third thing that's important to people is to know that people are real, to know that people are, artificial intelligence, bring it on, because I'm going to be the last real mofo on the internet who's still actually talking to clients, who's still actually out here writing our own copy, keeping it simple, keeping the main thing, and not trying to do too much, right? So our whole sales philosophy is get people in, get them a chance to actually sit down and have a freaking appetizer and decide if they want to stick around. And so about halfway through the challenge, we'll introduce an opportunity for them to enroll in our more advanced courses. It's not brain science, it's not rocket science what we're doing. We're just doing all of the shit that everybody else is trying to get out of doing. You know what I mean? Over the last couple of years, everybody's tried to go more automated, trying to go more PLR content, tried to go more simple, all this shit. Now it's artificial intelligence. It's just another sign that human beings want to be lazy. That's all this is, because people are excited about the idea that they're not going to have to do the writing. Well, guess what? Good.
Right.
That's what I want.
It's increasing your competitive advantage. Yeah.
It's increasing because I just keep telling my story, and I just keep connecting with people in these very simple but mysterious ways. Right. And we've got a team of, 60, 70 BPAs or something on our team who just, their job is just to connect, just to have conversations, just to get on Zoom with people. All the shit that all the other marketers are trying to sell you on Here's how to never do strategy sessions. Here's how to only sell with a Google Doc. Here's how to, only sell with a couple of magical phrases. And it's like, great, have fun with that. And I'm just going to keep doing the work and doing the shit that I know works, and not try to work so hard trying not to do the work. So again, to answer your question, our philosophy is have a shitload of quality ass conversations, like legitimately figure out when that person comes to that call and they're going through our 15-day challenge, how can we help them just get through it and get what they want out of it, not what we want for them. Every single day we tell people, I don't think the blueprints are for you. I think they might put you in some sort of a financial situation that whatever it is, we don't try to, and that's another one of the reasons why we actually try to talk to every person who comes through, is that we understand that like really customizing and personalizing things to them makes more of a difference than just trying to give people, everybody, a cookie cutter solution. And you can actually sell the same thing, but have somebody talking to them and personalize it for them, even though every person is actually getting the same thing. Right. So that's another thing that's been really powerful. But it's also a feedback loop of we interview our clients, all the shit. Again, Wake Up Legendary, interviewing a client every single day. There's nothing magical about it. It's just something that there's not a single other CEO in the world, in any company, in any industry that I know that's doing what I'm doing every day. Why? I don't know why. Because they're not willing to do it. It's hard, dude. It's hard. And it's scary. It was scary at the beginning. What are they going to say? Are there going to be enough of them? Are they, you know what I mean? Like,
right, we're going to be able to fill our time slots, right?
Totally,
all those
man. Are
fears
people going to
in.
watch? Is it like there's all that scary shit? But again, the secret to our success is that we're willing to do all the stuff that everybody else works so hard and thinks they're so cool because they're trying to get out of doing it. And it's like, why? Like, but okay, cool. Yes. Artificial copy for you. I mean, you're just going to see all this spam all over. And it's like, people are so quickly going to be able to realize that, oh, wait, this person's real. Like, so all these skills I talked about of developing like your own writing skills and developing your own video making skills and developing your own going live skills, and then ultimately developing your own still presenting and in-person communication skills. I don't give a shit how much artificial intelligence, how many robots, blah, 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 kiss my ass. The skills that I just outlined are always going to be the most profitable ones. Not the operators, not the project managers of the artificial intelligence. No, the visionaries, the communicators, the leaders, the marketers.
It's just crazy where everything's going, right? The metaverse, they want you to wear like a big thing in your face, so you cannot live your life, but you can live somewhere else. Like, what is that?
I can't grasp reality as it is, let alone virtual. I can't handle that.
Right?
You think I'm stupid? You think I'm stupid? What is my wife going to be letting me? Well, I'm not going to let myself walk around. Imagine the trouble I could get into on the metaverse. Not this boy. I'll be out there, trust me, that'll be a whole nother place that we can get in trouble. No, sir.
Yeah, when you were growing up, your mom will tell you, don't watch TV too close to your face, right? Because you're going to go blind. And now they're going to put this big device in your face.
I know. That's why I'm trying to keep life simple, fellas, because, all these different things that come out and they're shiny and they're trendy and they're hot and they're all just distractions. Like our grandfathers and like, in not every respect, but like a lot of the things that are important that made them happy are still the things that are going to make us happy. You know what I mean? And it's just that we just have more tools to be able to generate resources, make money, etc. But it's not something new that's going to make us happy. Like all the old shit that our ancestors have been doing for hundreds or thousands or millions, depending on what you believe, have been doing is the same shit that's going to make us happy. And so there's a difference between just getting rich and also like being happy, and this not being another thing that you hate, like, and if Alex Ford did a wonderful presentation at the mastermind breaking down the kind of three different personality types: the dabbler, the stressor, and the master. And so many of us are dabblers, of course, jumping from one thing to one thing, and then we get it going and then we stop it, and then we got to start all over again. That's the dabbler. Never gets anywhere, only gets up to a certain point, because that's the point he or she or they get to, and get distracted, get bored, whatever. The old limiting beliefs start creeping in, that old soundtrack: you ain't shit, or you can't do this, or the criticism from family, or whatever it is. Boom, stop. But they still got the bug, so they start something new. But then they get to that certain point. Dabbler. Stressor, that person who gets into it and has one problem and totally freaks out and blows basically all their energy on the fact that they can't, ClickFunnels customer support hasn't got back to them yet or something, and it's like, and it's everything's, an emergency. Everything's, when it's like, entrepreneurship is more about kind of anticipating those challenges, not being shocked when they come. So the stressor sort of self-sabotages in a way, but is still able to get through things because they push so hard. You know what I mean? Like, they have great work ethic, but they're working way harder than they have to, or they're doing all a bunch of shit that they don't need to do because they're trying to keep up with the marketing Joneses. And then it's the master, who just slow and steady, man. Just slow and steady. A marketing test is at minimum a week or a month, not an hour or a day. Like, the master understands that it's going to take some time to be able to get some good, accurate data from a strategy. Like a podcast or a show, like our show didn't start taking off, I would say, for probably a year at least. And I could have easily just said, yeah, this sucks, or this isn't really picking up, or whatever. But it takes time for things to hit a kind of a what would you call it? Like,
It's like, the analogy I like to use is kind of exactly what you're talking about. So imagine if you walk into a park or a field, and you ever see those old timey wells where you pump the handle and water comes out.
Yeah.
When you start pumping that handle, the first thing that happens is the vacuum is created, but you're not actually getting any water yet. But you have to keep pumping and keep pumping, because you get the vacuum and that starts to suck up the water. But if you start sucking up the water, or start getting the results in the case of building a business, you won't see it. But if you stop pumping at that point, what happens? Well, when you decide to pick it up again a month or a year later, you don't start with that water halfway up the pipe anymore, because it rushes out when you lose the vacuum. So you got to start from scratch. So you got to keep pumping when you're not seeing the results. And eventually, guess what? You'll get a trickle. And then you get that siphon effect, and the water just starts going. And that's the momentum. And once you have that, really, you barely have to pump to get massive results. One thing I try to identify in business is patterns. And I know we're coming up on time here, but this is kind of one of the last things that I wanted to make sure I got. And I asked you about, your sales processes with your business plan advisors. And you dove in and gave a great explanation and talked about, how AI is like going to just increase our competitive advantage and stuff like that when we're making real connections. Let's shift gears for just a second, because you have, I don't know, tens or hundreds of thousands of affiliates. And obviously there are some who have, at least over the past year that I've noticed, have been consistently finding themselves on top of the leaderboard, consistently making the most money. And then you see people who come in and they just shoot to the top of the leaderboard, and everybody wonders, like, what are they doing? Well, as an insider looking at it from the inside, what are those people doing, Dave? Do you have any insight you can share with the listeners here?
Man, what I've realized is your competitive advantage is your own personality and your own uniqueness. And we had a wonderful guest on the show this morning who actually found her niche in boundary phrases. Yes, she actually has an account, Cami Orange, on TikTok and Instagram, but her number one and only topic that she talks about is setting boundaries and boundary phrases. And if you're asking what is that, then it'd probably be something to go look into, and because us as entrepreneurs really struggle with setting boundaries and protecting our time, and not being people pleasers, and also not giving too much credit and weight to what people say. Oftentimes that criticism from friends and family can be heartbreaking, honestly. And if we don't have the right responses, if we don't have set the right boundaries with these types of people, then it can really eat us up. So she really kind of built her, and this was her the way that she described it. She built her kind of entire content portfolio, her TikTok channel, on her life experiences. And when she went to go name off her life experiences, it wasn't the things that you would normally, she's queer, she said, she's autistic, she's a former spiritual coach, I think. Just a couple of things that you would normally be like, wow, wait, hold on a second, are those things that really you want to be talking about? Like the same thing for me, like my former drug addiction, homelessness, recovery, all these kind of things but these are the things that make you unique, your own personal life experience, the things that you personally went through, the things that you most likely are discounting, but are really interesting to people. Like most people would watch a 20-minute documentary on your life if you had somebody help you tell the story. You just don't know how to tell the story. So the number one thing that I've realized with people that are having success today is this same identical thing that I had success with when I first started, and everybody in between, is they found their own personal voice, their own unique individuality, their own identity. And they did not try to copy somebody else. They did not try to be somebody else. They did not try to sound like somebody else. There's a difference between finding inspiration and copying somebody. And artists, I would say artists, from painters to musicians, you hear it all the time. They use a sampling of a previous song. That's even in a way kind of almost copying, but it's a form of inspiration. But all ideas are mainly, at this point in life, inspiration. Something gave you the idea. Something made you think of that, right? And the people who use other people's content and things out there as inspiration to, or as a topic to talk about, but to put their own spin on it, those are the people who skyrocket to the top. Those are the people. That is why I skyrocketed to success when I finally started to kind of harness my own personal experiences and personal story and weave it into my marketing. That's the determining factor between people who really take off and people who hover and get, good results. You can get good results by looking and sounding like everybody else. You can get okay results like that. You may even be able to achieve your goals like that by doing very little of your own original thinking and trying almost non-existent effort into kind of developing your own voice or trying to be creative, to put a unique spin on something that you heard. You can get okay results like that. You may even be able to achieve your goals like that. I'm serious. But if you develop your own message and your own voice and develop your own story, and actually, that's something that nobody can get anywhere else. And as you begin to tell that, the way that you make people feel by telling those stories and sharing those personal experiences is a feeling that they may not be able to get anywhere else. And so that's what, and Brian, it's the same. Andre, it's the same anywhere. This is not unique to our industry, our niche. Our niche is a mite freckle on the pimple of a gnat's ass. This is true in look at Conor McGregor. The guy keeps losing, but he just keeps getting richer. Why? because he's harnessed that silly ass accent that probably many Irish fighters before him tried to get rid of, right? He's harnessed that. I mean, I say silly because I love it, but I think it sounds silly. My shit sounds silly too to a lot of people, but it's mine. And that is what is. So how do you explain that, Brian? I'm just, the only thing that I can do is try to, at this point, empower people to realize that they already have everything inside of them that they need to succeed. I'm not their guru. They don't need a special, they don't need to touch the robe of a special guru, have stone tablets come down from they don't need to be blessed. They don't need to be baptized. They don't need to be any of these things to just begin putting up a camera and sharing your story, sharing more of your truth, because that's something that artificial intelligence can't do. And that's something that also people who are too afraid to do that can't do. And that's why there's a very small percentage of people in every niche that, really skyrocket because they can tell a better story. You look at a guy like TD Jakes, or you look at a guy like, who's the other pastor? Joel.
Joel Osteen.
Joel Olsen.
Okay. Is he giving anything? Is he giving any unique information that other pastors are not giving?
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think he is. I mean, I haven't sat down and listened to all of his sermons and all of any other pastor's sermons, but my general takeaway is he's kind of talking about the things that are said in the Bible. That's what he's talking about.
And that's all it is. He's taken what hasn't changed for years and he's just putting them inside a framework. And then his framework happens to be the church, which is the same thing marketers have to do. They take the same things that you just talked about, that you just shared with us, that have been working for years, that will continue to work for years, regardless of what AI does. And you simply put them inside a framework, which might be content or a funnel or an email. And then it just works. Yeah. But you can't do it without the storytelling, the uniqueness, and once you get beyond the fear of putting yourself out there, you realize there's just not a whole hell of a lot of competition out here these days. There's plenty of room for you.
I'm going to give your audience something that's powerful. It's Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, was just hired back because the gentleman that he hired, or to step into his role as the CEO, basically Bob Chapek, didn't get the job done. Bob Iger said that the number one thing that is important is to maintain the soul of your company and the soul of your brand and your message. That's your number one job. And so many of us get caught up in the mechanics, the autoresponder, setting this up, setting that up. That's fine. Get it set up. And the most important part of your business is the soul of your message and the soul of your brand and the soul of your company. He also said that I think it's in this article, he said that he believes creativity and storytelling are at the heart of Disney. He said, I'm obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with it for a reason, because it drives this company. Iger said, it's not about how much we create. It's about how great the things are that we do create. The difference between what Disney sells and, for example, what Six Flags sells, and why one is a global brand that is one of the biggest companies in the world, and one is a theme park in Atlanta. There may be multiples of them, but they're nowhere near as big as Disney, is because one sells roller coasters and the other sells story and experience and magical feelings, i.e. the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
One sells the fastest roller coaster and one sells the greatest place on earth. Yeah. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go ride a roller coaster, or do you want to go to the greatest place? Who also happens to have roller coasters?
By the way,
place on earth, the most magical place on earth.
It's all about the message, right?
Matt made a great point in the email that he just sent out to our affiliates. He said, I bought this specific ashtray because of what it said. It said, it had a quote about time, and it reminded me to never rush, versus just one that might have looked better. So people buy the story. They don't really buy the product. they buy a story. And it's the same thing with luxury. I've gotten into kind of this luxury world only because I like watches. I'm not a luxury geek or a guy that needs luxury, but it's like I'm fascinated by the psychology and the marketing, because they're selling watches for hundreds of thousands of dollars that have no more. If you look at them side by side and you go to the factories that they were made in, the workbenches, the people that made them, they're really no different than a watch that sells for 10 or 15,000. The story and the history, it's something that we have a hard time explaining. But when you and you don't even know if you ever really got it, because it's like you just tell the story. You just got to get good at telling stories, and you got to get good at getting out of analytical mode all the time, in logical and rational mode all the time. And it's a great quality to have. And it's ultimately one of the things that help somebody make a buying decision, when they can kind of rationally say, okay, well, I can buy this watch and it's going to hold its value. So that's a logical reason, but I really want it just because it's what it's going to say about me if I have it on my wrist or whatever. Right. But they still get sucked in by the stories. And it's a slow process, Brian. That's the other thing that I think I've realized, is it's not a process that happens overnight. It's not just conversion doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. A series of videos that they indoctrinate you with, a series of emails that they indoctrinate you with, a series of things that you see over time. And you have to make sure as a marketer that you're in front of that person in the moment that they have their F it moment. Because every customer has their F it moment where they've been seeing it, and finally they're like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And if you aren't still there, then, the next guy in line or gal in line gets the sale. But you got to be willing to kind of facilitate that sale over a period of time, and understand that that's how conversion happens. Like even at our company, people come in, they'll go watch a couple of episodes of Wake Up Legendary. They'll do their due diligence, whatever that means. Like, right. It's a process that happens, and those marketers who need it all to happen right away and are frustrated because they've been posting TikTok videos for 2 weeks and they haven't gone viral yet. Like, you're missing the whole point. Like that legitimately is get rich quick. Like, you're expecting to get rich quick when that's what you said you didn't want.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. When you have 6 months worth of people who are on the fence, that's going to be a much bigger month than when you have a couple people who just happen to see a video and
totally.
And
that the momentum picks up. Brian, you had used that word because I was struggling coming up with it, but that's exactly what it was. And haven't both of you seen that, where it's not everybody who watched a video today that bought. It's the people who have been on your list. They've been seeing your shit. They finally are like, okay, his message is not changing and his life looks like it's getting better and mine is staying the same. Fuck it. I'm going to try it. You know what I mean? Like, It's like that F it moment.
Yeah,
you want to be there for that.
They can't take it anymore, and they have to move forward.
So I actually had the pleasure of meeting you in person and meeting your team, your business plan advisors, your customer service team, and I truly believe you have built an amazing group of people with your company, right? It's been amazing. There's nothing wrong I can say about it, to be honest. So where do you see yourself, just to finish this amazing interview, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, and your company as well?
Hopefully I'm doing the same things that I'm doing now in my life. More time fishing, more time on the boat, more time with my, I get a lot of time with my wife actually, but just keeping things simple, keeping the main things. I don't need Legendary or want Legendary to be the next $1 billion company. I just want to, for most entrepreneurs, we get into momentum phase and then we really just put our pedal to the metal and want to go as fast as we can and just break shit and we're on the way to the top. That's not really my path or the way that I think is the best way to approach building a company. I think that steady and slow growth is best. I think that keeping things manageable is better. I've had it where I had more money to process than merchant accounts. I know what the stress is of, I know what both the stresses of having a company not grow, but also having a company grow too fast. And I like to be somewhere in the middle, So in 5 years, my hope is that our industry is more respected. We're more validated, that there's a quicker path for people to get the help that they need and to be able to sift through the good stuff on the internet from the shit. I hope that Legendary can continue to be a safe place for people to learn these personal and professional skills. Because honestly, we do teach much more than just marketing. We teach personal and professional skills. And I'd like our curriculum to evolve more into that, not because I think it's a huge profit play, but because I have a belief based on evidence that the more we educate people, the more we pour into them, just the more they'll buy, the more they'll want to stick around and hang around and not just be so quick to want to escape. Like, that would defeat the purpose if they wanted to escape our community, because we're trying to provide an escape for, their maybe corporate career or what they've been doing. So I want to maintaining safe communities for people to grow in, to be like what we did at the mastermind. I felt like I wanted a better environment for people to feel safer at our masterminds, to ask questions, to get feedback. And so I changed my approach at the mastermind this last one, and there was tons more interaction and tons more question and answer and tons more just like people really, I just felt like there was a lot of support in the room and people left feeling really supported. And so it's also my job to continue to protect our community from, not only me from toxic leadership, right? So I have to make sure that I continue to stay in check. I think that CEOs and oftentimes founders of companies kill companies more often than the company kills itself because of their bad decision making and their toxic behavior. And so in 5 years, I hope that I have maintained a reputation of integrity. I hope that I have set forth, what I think is good leadership principles, and that I've protected the community and maintained a safe place for people to, really grow and feel comfortable sharing and getting feedback, and being honest. I think that, 5 years is a long ass time, but I think if we continue to do that, then I think we will continue to grow. My needs are already met. I said at the beginning of the show that, my life is somewhat different. And I meant that from this business has given me a wonderful life. Even just affiliate marketing. I did affiliate marketing specifically and only for many years out of my career, rather than just owning a company that creates courses, coaching, and events and all that. So, for me, it's not about going and trying to make another million. It's about really trying to see how long we can keep. Like, my goal is to be around in 10 or 15 years and there to be not much different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of like the Rolex Submariner or the Day-Date. If you go and look at the Submariner back in 1950, what's so brilliant about Rolex is small, tiny little changes. They didn't go and throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of people don't understand, and I didn't for a long time, that a lot of the way to success is to keep something the same and familiar to people, so they know what to expect when they go and experience that product or service, i.e. McDonald's, i.e. every other big business in the world. Their number one goal, or one of them, is congruency and product congruency, experience congruency, that the customer is going to get the same experience no matter what boutique, store, or restaurant they go to. And that experience is going to get enhanced, but not changed over the years.
Right.
That's a little bit of my outlook on the future.
Yeah, I mean that's
Amazing.
incredible, and you know you're right about all those things about you said slow growth and consistency. I mean, I you know I think one thing that you've done extremely well, either by design or just by necessity, is you've really, as Legendary has grown, you've done a really good job of making the clients and the students and the community the real star of the show. Even though you know you're a big personality with tons of success, you've really done a good job of, like you said, empowering people to represent it in the way that they feel that they should. And I think it's a testament to you, and it's just a reason that Legendary Marketer is growing and will continue to grow and have record-breaking months for years to come. So I just want to thank you, Dave, for your time, sharing, you know, some of your stories and your strategies and advice with our audience. Last thing before we go, is there anything that Andre and I can do for you or your community? Is there any way we can help you out?
There is nothing that I could do to repay you guys for your contribution to Legendary. So that it's wonderful when somebody asks a question, what can they do? And you've already done it, and you don't even know you've already done it. I mean, I am so grateful for your contribution. Both of you have been like a real privilege to have in our community and get to know myself personally. So if anything else comes up that I want to ask you for, I will certainly ask. But right now, I am so complete and so satisfied with the journey of our relationship together so far. I'm just looking forward to more of it.
Well, fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Dave. You know, you've been a huge impact to both of our lives, in ways you know and in ways you don't know. And yeah, maybe 6 months from now we'll plan a podcast episode on your boat. What do you say?
I love that.
Yeah, we'll have to schedule it, right? We'll have to schedule it, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
All right. Well, thank you
That
very
way it
much,
gets
Dave.
done.
For everyone who's listening, obviously Dave Sharpe, CEO, Legendary Marketer, phenomenal program, phenomenal community. And if you can't find him, well, you're not
That's
doing
by
something
design.
right.
That's by design. I don't want to be found. I just
Yeah, well,
want
we can certainly find your company. Well, thanks again, Dave. Look
Thank you,
forward to
Dave.
talking to you soon.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.